Hi everyone, this is The Cutting Room, the movie show by All the Right Movies. My name is Luke, and with me are ATRM's very own Plant Page, Mick Keith, Hammond, BB, it's Matt, and Westy.
Hello.
We'll let you decide which one's which. This episode has been voted by and created specifically for our Patreon supporters. They get access to these bonus shows a full 12 months before they go out to everyone. We love you guys. Thanks very much for your continued unwavering support. Our very own Band-Aids, if you will.
Yes, thank you very much, guys.
Yes, amazing. Thank you.
Without some of the perks, of course.
Yeah.
Without all of the first.
And if you would like to join our Patreon community, you can sign up at patreon.com/alltherightmovies to get access to these episodes a year early, as well as access to a whole host of other benefits, including our endless well of podcasts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
As mentioned, our Patreon supporters voted for the film that we're talking about today. We each picked out 3 films from the list, recommended to us also by our patrons, and put those 3 on a poll for our patrons to decide. I went with Almost Famous, Westy went with Speed, and Matt, Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very close call, but Almost Famous just edged it with 44% of the votes.
Happy
Manhunter came in second. I am happy. I'm very happy. I wasn't going to mention it. I was going to bring it up. Yes. Manhunter second, 39. Speed, a lowly 17, unfortunately.
Well, you know.
Win some, lose some.
Of course you do. Just not ready for that yet.
No. Just a bit of admin before we start as well. If you are an ATRM patron, and you go to the poll now, you'll be able to see that Almost Famous and Manhunter have the same percentage, or somebody might have voted differently. And they're even Steven on there, or they were when at the time of recording. Mm. And that's because somebody, naming no names, they voted after the poll had closed. 24 hours, the poll is 24 hours. I know, outrageous. Breaking the rules.
Controversial.
Yeah, rules are rules, otherwise there's anarchy, so Almost Famous is the rightful winner, fair and square.
I am a golden god!
Yeah, fucking rules are rules.
Yeah. We've got to do
From
Almost
my hands.
Famous.
That's the way it is. Case closed.
Like Platoon 2,
my
I'm
hands
sure
are
we've got to
clean.
cover both.
Yeah.
Let's do Almost Famous first, alphabetical.
Better.
Basking in the glory.
I nothing is written down for me to bask in this glory. That's on YouTube, guys.
Well, we're
My
going
hands
to
are
help
clean.
you bask in the glory.
My hands are clean on that one. Matt, why don't you start us off? Why are we talking about this film, Almost Famous?
I think this one has been scratching on the door for a while now, I think.
Oh, yes, just
Scratch
like
on
Feed
your
the Dog.
We both jumped at that as quickly as possible,
say.
didn't we?
And probably ruined Matt's gag as well.
Bastards.
Sorry.
Sorry, mate, go for it.
Sorry.
Right, stop. Yeah, rules are rules.
Rules are rules. No, there's just loads to like about this film. Great performances, shot through with this real personal touch, I think, from Cameron Crowe. And that's what stops it from just being a less funny Spinal Tap.
That's nitpicking, isn't it?
I think anyone else tried to make this without his knowledge and experience of being there, that's what it would have ended up being. Incredible music, and I think Crowe just really cracked how to tell this story with a fictional band, but it still feels authentic because he was there. This is what he did. It's really quotable.
I'm only the fucking lead singer!
Yeah, same. I remember seeing this in the cinema. Just loving it. Love the use of music. I was like, finally a soundtrack that's just absolutely flawless from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's just, it has this incredible accessibility, and it is really lighthearted, but it does have deep messages, and it does really work. I come back to it very, very often. It's like, you know, if I'm having a pretty bad day, I've been ill this weekend, so I'm like, perfect, Almost Famous. It just always puts you in a nice place. And I love films like that it isn't over cheesy. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah, it's a joy of a film. I really, really love it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm the same as you fellas. I loved it immediately, like you, Westy. It felt like it was specifically made for me when it came out. I was 19, 20. It just ticked all my boxes. Just a huge fan of the music from the era. I was into all of those acts like Zeppelin, Elton John, Neil Young in a really big way. And I still am, I suppose. So this was like catnip for me. Mm-hmm. Revisiting it for the show, I realised that I hadn't seen it in about 10 years.
Oh, wow, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Christ.
And as a 42-year-old, I do come to it with a slightly different perspective to the film than being a 20-year-old crazy about music and looking at it and think, oh, this would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think that just comes with age and experience, but you can't fail to be charmed by the whole thing. Passion project from Cameron Crowe as well, with an incredible ensemble cast. It's an absolute treat of a film. Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, let's get on the road with Stillwater. It's all happening. 15-year-old social outcast William Miller is given the opportunity of a lifetime to go on the road with up-and-coming rock band Stillwater to write a think piece for Rolling Stone magazine. William goes on a coming-of-age road trip journey with the band and their hangers-on, while back home his strict mother is losing her mind at the imagined corruption of her youngest. Written by Cameron Crowe and based on his own experiences as a 16-year-old music journalist, Almost Famous was directed and produced by Crowe for Vinyl Films and distributed by DreamWorks. Patrick Fugit stars as William, Frances McDormand as his mother Elaine, Kate Hudson is Band-Aid Penny Lane, and Billy Crudup and Jason Lee star as Stillwater's Russell Hammond and Jeff Beebe. It also features an incredible ensemble cast, too numerous to mention here.
Yeah.
On the cutting room, we're talking about Cameron Crowe's work as director and writer. Then we'll talk about the cast and pick out our individual highlights from the film before we rate it out of 10. There are two versions of Almost Famous, the 2-hour theatrical version and the bootleg untitled 2-hour 40 cut. Our conversation will cover both versions, and we're starting at track 1, side 1, Cameron Crowe's work behind the camera as director. A passion project for Crowe, who gained enough clout in the industry to be able to pull it together after the successes of his previous films, all of them gaining significant critical and commercial success. Matt, coming to you first. Cameron Crowe as director on Almost Famous.
Yeah. Really, really strong work here. And the reason it's strong is because it's so personal to him. Because like you say, he's at that point in his career when he's got the clout to do what he wants. And this is exactly what he wants to do. And I think that's why the film is so hard to classify. It's funny, but it's not comedy. It's romantic, but it's not a romance.
No.
It's not really a drama. It's not really a coming-of-age film either. It's entirely its own thing. And that's because only Cameron Crowe knows exactly what it should be in each and every element of the film. And I think you see that more than anything else in the performances. You know, Kate Hudson has never been as good again as she is here.
No.
Billy Crudup has never been as charismatic as he is here. Jason Lee has never looked like a leading man or a rock star in his entire career, apart from here. And I think you have to give Crowe the credit for that because he's given them the material that they need to shine. And they all get the individual moments. So Penny, when she finds out she's being traded for that crate of beer, absolutely heartbreaking stuff. By far and away the best scene Kate Hudson's ever done.
What kind of beer, though?
What kind of beer?
Yeah,
it's
twice as smart.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Great line. From Crudup's point of view, like when Russell picks up the phone to talk to William's mother, and he's full of that rock star swagger.
Hey, Mom, it's Russell Hammond. I play guitar in Stillwater.
And he just gets cut to pieces by it, and he just ends up going, "Yes, ma'am."
Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
That's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
That's so
really,
yes, ma'am.
really funny. You know,
Kind of freaked me out.
stuff. Yeah,
That's great.
And Jason Lee, like when he's really going at Russell over the T-shirt debacle, and then later on the plane where they're having that argument, like Jason Lee never gets that kind of material in the Kevin Smith film, does he?
Yeah, no, not at all.
And like the only two performances that I would say Crowe doesn't elevate are Frances McDormand and Phillp Seymour Hoffman, and that's because the Frances McDormand and Phillp Seymour Hoffman, they're always
they've arrived fully formed.
Yeah, exactly.
They're already there.
Everyone else, he's just given them this platform to really develop and really show what they can do. And what really stands out to me, though, like thinking about what he does here, is everything he's done after this. Like Vanilla Sky is good, but I never feel the urge to revisit that.
No,
but then after that, what you have? Elizabethtown.
Yeah.
We bought a zoo. Like, it feels Almost Famous. He said everything he ever wanted to say as a writer and a director. And to be honest, after this, it just feels like he's making films because he can, not because he particularly wants to, and he doesn't know what he wants to do anymore. Because he did Almost Famous, and that was the peak for him.
It's just Sgt. Pepper's, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
It definitely is. Yeah. I want to talk about the music in the film. I mean, you mentioned it at the top, Westy. This is the soundtrack, isn't it? Top 5.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy. Top 3.
It really taps into the nostalgia of the period, a real time portal. And it even charts Williams' coming of age. The first song is the Chipmunk Song by Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
Alvin!
Showcasing that William is like a billion miles away from the life on the road that he'll have in a few years and just how far he comes. And then Bookends by Simon and Garfunkel eases us into rock and roll. Then Tommy, 2 classics from the 60s, and then bang, fully immersed in 70s rock with Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. Love it. There are 5 Zeppelin songs on the soundtrack, unheard of really, because Zeppelin are famously protective of their music.
Yeah.
Crowe wanted to make it 6. He had a scene where William plays the entirety of Stairway to Heaven to show his mother that rock and roll isn't all sex and drugs, in the hope of convincing her to let him go on the road. And it doesn't even make it into the untitled cut either, because Crowe couldn't get the license for it, which is a real shame. But the song is almost 8 minutes long.
Yeah,
there's no dialogue
amazing
in that scene. If you've seen it, just William and his sister's ex-boyfriend like acting out the whole song, doing air drum and air guitar for 8 minutes. It just wouldn't fly.
Not at all.
It's great. It would have been unnecessary, but I mean, it's a really great scene. The line that Fruza Bulk says when she comes out of the door when we're introduced to the Band-Aids, does anybody remember laughter? That was lifted from Robert Plant in the Led Zepp concert film. The song remains the same as well.
Yes.
So, like, Led Zepp are a real constant in this film.
Does anybody remember laughter? Does anybody remember laughter?
The music budget for the film was a whopping $3.5 million. And watching the film, I mean, it's huge. That is huge. But I was surprised there's not more, because there's just moment after moment of incredible needle drops. All the way it's littered. Neil Young caught as the killer when they're walking through the airport. The wind, Cat Stevens when Penny's twirling around in the empty arena.
Yeah.
Oh, just beautiful. That's the Way by Led Zepp when they're on the bus. Yeah. And for me, that all taps into the incredible nostalgia rush that I get watching this film. It's not set over years and years, but it feels like it is. It's all set over this one summer during 1973, and Crowe's the perfect man to direct this material. It's his baby. He's lived through it. And he's steeped in the music culture, and it's a really beautiful love letter to this time in America and in music as well. I think great work from him.
Yeah, how complex these characters could have been, what they're going through. I mean, Penny Lane is just abandoned a whole life.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where her parents are. You know, she's got drug issues, she overdoses. You know, there's affairs going on the road. There's people's hearts being broken left, right, and center. People being sold for beer. Do you know what I mean? It could be really disgusting. This film, it could have a really dark undertone. But what he does is he just, like I said at the top, he keeps it accessible, and he makes these really complex characters understandable. And again, lovable for some. I mean, you still love Hammond at the end, even though what he's done to Penny Lane, you still love Penny Lane, and you still love William, and you still love all the Band-Aids, even though they're there for the wrong reasons. Even the Jimmy Fallon cameo, you know, he still gives him room to not just be Jimmy Fallon. He is Jimmy Fallon, but he's not, and it really works.
If you think Mick Jagger will still be out there trying to be a rock star at age 50, you're sadly mistaken.
But that's what I mean. That's what Crowe brings to this. It's a real soft touch, which might be the film's downfall for a mainstream audience, I think, to take it, you know, seriously. I think that might be one of its pulling factors, but it's one that he wasn't going to pull back on.
And she says to tell you, I know what's going on. So I'll see you guys in Topeka, okay?
And for me, it makes it very, very accessible and very, very good. And that's what he does. And I don't think anyone else but Crowe could have brought that tone to this kind of material. And I think it's just great because it's so watchable, beautifully done.
It is. Great. There's loads of familiar faces in there. Mark Maron, comedian, podcaster, has got a small part to play as the aggressive promoter who has a dust-up with Dick. And Dick with the shittest high kicks in the world. He knows karate. No, he doesn't.
Doesn't fuck. And the actors who were playing the band, they didn't play their own stuff, but they went to what Crowe calls a rock school for 6 weeks. But they're working on the stage presence and the performance. But that was with Nancy Wilson and Peter fucking Frampton. So
Is that Peter fucking Frampton?
So that was done to build the kind of camaraderie and the dynamic, which I think they all have. I don't think there's any member of the band who's like a bit player. When William's interviewing the bass player, and he's kind of like, if you weren't adding anything, you know, what dynamic would be left out? And he's like, well, I play the bass. He's like, but what would be left out, you know? And he's trying to get to him spiritually.
Like spiritually, what would be left out?
What would be left out? The bass.
What would be missing? Stylistically, what chemical?
The bass. The majority of the original songs in the film were written by Crowe and Nancy Wilson from the
his wife,
rock group Heart. Yeah, he was his then wife. They wrote them when they were on honeymoon in 1986. Peter Frampton, he was musical supervisor in the film. He wrote some of the songs as well. He plays the roadie for Humble Pie in the film.
Yes,
well.
yeah.
It had a budget of 60 million, returning less than 50 mil. But despite that, a great job by Crowe creating possibly his finest film.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. Definitely.
A semi-autobiographical screenplay from Cameron Crowe, who skipped kindergarten and 2 school years. At 13, he was befriended by Lester Bangs when he contributed articles for Cream magazine. And when he was 15, he met Ben Fong Torres, who hired him to write for Rolling Stone magazine. Crazy.
Well, I certainly know how my lady gets when you don't snap to it. Crazy.
Crowe was and is the youngest ever Rolling Stone writer, and he went on the road at age 16 with the Allman Brothers Band. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Originally, the film was called Untitled, then The Uncool, but the studio didn't like either. Crowe had around 50 different title options, but Almost Famous is a reference to the hangers-on he used to see by the side of the stage. He always wondered who they were, but because they knew the band, they were almost famous.
Yeah, nice.
Untitled or Almost Famous, regardless, what do you think of Crowe's writing on the film, Westy?
Almost Untitled. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really, really great. I've spoke before. He captures the period. You're there. It doesn't feel like it's a rehash of something. It doesn't feel cliched either. It feels very, very authentic. And there's some incredible dialogue and there's some incredible character writing. And I love the way he writes Lester Bangs. I mean, we talk about Phillp Seymour Hoffman for a second. He's just incredible in this film. And his delivery of his dialogue is just so good. But it's when he talks to him about, when he's sitting in the cafe and he's still got a little bit of food in his mouth, and he just talks to him about, the rock stars and the guy, and he pauses for a second. He's kind of like, and then delivers the line. I don't know if you've noticed it, but every time it just gives me like a real warm rush about like, you don't need to deliver it that well.
A lovely character moment.
Fucking brilliant.
Rock journalist. First, you never get paid much.
It's just fantastic. Loads of little bits. McDormand is absolutely fantastic in it. She's just great. The epitome of real versus cool. And that's what the whole theme of the film is, to be honest. And he writes it so well. And he writes it quite on the nose. Hammond actually says, just make us look cool. Yeah. And that's what it is. It's that whole dichotomy between what is real and what is cool. And it's being authentic cool. And can you be cool and authentic at the same time? And I think he gets that message across, especially in the writing and the dialogue, so well. I think it's a beautifully written film.
Yeah, McDormand. She's got so many like zingers.
Rock stars have kidnapped my son.
Great. Coming back to this after such a long time away, I was initially put off at the start of the film because the Band-Aids are really young girls. And the naivety is being taken advantage of by these hairy monsters. I did reconcile this in my mind because obviously it was commonplace with groupies and the bands of the era. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't make it okay by any stretch of my moral fiber, but at least there is truth in the writing.
Yeah.
A lot of truth in the writing. It put me in mind of Boogie Nights coming back to us. These ragtag misfits kind of form a dysfunctional family, albeit with a certain amount of emotional manipulation going on all the time. And I don't think Cameron Crowe does a lot in his writing to highlight the pitfalls of the road, to be honest, but a lot of that melts away because it's really, really sweetly written. And he's not writing an indictment of rock stars either. The affection he has is clear to see. It's everywhere. Like you said, Westy, it's not, it could be awful considering the circumstances. But it's heartwarming. It's full of hazy, sunny days, nostalgia when times were simpler and music was better. And if you come to this looking for a hard-hitting life on the road, you're sadly mistaken. Yeah. But you can't fail to be charmed by the sweetness of the film, and all the characters are written really affectionately. A real love letter, and you can feel that it's directly from the heart.
Yeah, it's not like Sid and Nancy or something.
It's not Sid and Nancy.
God, no.
Thank God. Thank God. What about you, Matt? Writing?
Yeah, it's excellent. It's the kind of film you can't separate the direction from the writing in a lot of ways because he's obviously doing both, and both are really personal to him because, like you just said, he did start writing music journalism when he was that age, and he was friends with Lester Bangs. So everything in the film does that have feeling of, I was there and this is what I saw. And it comes back that cliche that people say, where if you write about something specific, then actually the more universal it feels to other people, which I think is true. Yeah. I think if he went in and he tried to write this film and try to like make a grand statement about humanity and love, I think it just wouldn't have worked. But I think just drilling into the details they're the things that you recognize, because, you know, even though we never did what Crowe did, we've all had a really embarrassing moment when our mother has said something in front of us, in front of our friends, or in front of a group of people that just makes you want to curl up and die, like Elaine does here. You know, we've all had the crush on the older girl who was way out of our league, but she's taken a bit of a shine to us anyway.
Yeah.
And all you can do is sit and watch while she gets with a good-looking older guy. And that shot where Penny and Russell go into like that storeroom and she hangs a coat up over the window, Ed Williams just sat outside. Like, you just absolutely feel that moment of being like a 15-year-old kid and not being like old enough to understand that. But I do agree with you, fellas. It is very kind of rose-tinted at times.
Yeah.
You know, we all know the stories of Led Zepp. You know, this film doesn't have that kind of grit under the fingernails.
No,
you know what I mean? So, and I understand why, you know, Cameron Gore's got to make this film to be like releasable, you know, not have like an NC-17 slapped on it. So it's fair enough, but it's also to the back of my mind, it's, you know, this is quite rose-tinted. And it does lead, like, to me, which is the worst scene in the film, which is where William loses his virginity. Because, I mean, it's completely plausible that on the road with a rock band, he would have sex for the first time. Loads of groupies around. But, you know, unlike everyone else on the planet, he doesn't lose it in a twosome. He doesn't even lose it in a threesome. He has a foursome for his first time. You know, they're jumping around, throwing like scarves and stuff around the place, and Penny's peeking through her fingers at him. And I'm just like, Cameron, come on, mate. You're not fooling anyone.
Yeah,
you know,
awful.
We all know the first time it's like Kevin in American Pie, really awkward and horrible. You know,
them just
absolutely was not
the flower as the dancer of like fucking Midsummer.
It's horrible. Exactly. So they're right. On a whole, I love it. It's undeniably coming from an honest place. There are just certain elements in it that I don't really buy, and I think it's just too rose-tinted for its own good. Because he's just locked into his own perspective.
And a lot of it is a patchwork of moments that happened to rock stars of the era. The moment in the untitled version where the DJ falls asleep in the radio interview, that happened to Neil Young, and it was immortalized in his song On the Beach.
Right, nice.
Great.
Yeah, really good.
So despite being a box office flop, Crowe did win Best Screenplay, BAFTA and Oscar. McDormand and Hudson were both nominated, and the film won Best Comedy Musical at the Globes, and Hudson picked up Best Supporting at the Globes as well. So it did get recognition, even if it didn't get the money in. Not only Crowe's finest film, his most personal, bringing a great sense of tone and character as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
A huge ensemble cast bringing their A game to Almost Famous. All of them were relative unknowns beside Frances McDormand and Phillp Seymour Hoffman. We're only choosing our three favourites here, and Matt, you're going to start us off. Who are you going for?
I'm going for the biggest unknown of them all. Patrick Fugit is William, because I think very, very impressive job considering this is his debut.
Thanks.
Never acted on screen before, and he's the lead. And he's in there with some real heavyweights, and I don't think there's ever a moment where I feel as an actor he's out of his depth. William is as a character, but I don't think Fugit ever is.
No.
And I think he just nails every element. You know, he's sweet, but he's naive, and you do get the sense that actually, this kid is far cleverer than his piece. I totally believe that. Like, I love it when he first sees Stillwater going backstage, and he immediately knows what to say to them to get them to pay attention. Like, guys, it was the right decision to produce it yourselves.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm incendiary too, man.
That's it. Even if you can't pronounce that, really funny.
Great. Well, hey man, don't stop there. I'm incendiary too, man. Come on.
And it's just one of the joys of the film, I think, to see William go on that journey from this kid lacking in confidence to somebody who does grow up and stand up for himself. You know, when he kicks off at everyone on that flight over the way they've been treating Penny, and he admits that
I love her.
Yeah, I think he sells the hell out of that scene. I think he does great there. And what I love is it's not a smart aleck performance. He's not annoying. He's not precocious. He's geeky. And he's just trying to make sense of the world that he's been thrown into. And he's in situations he really shouldn't be. Like when he has to save Penny's life because she's taking that overdose. Like, no way should that be on like a 15-year-old kid to sort that out. Because all the other adults are just being dickheads, basically. And like when he gets home at the end and he falls flat on his bed, I don't think I've ever believed anyone is as tired as he is there. That's really great.
Great.
And
that is great.
Thing is, he didn't have it easy. like Phillp, Seymour, Hoffman, he wasn't giving him shit, but he also wasn't treating him with kid gloves. He was saying to him, are you really ready for this? Because you're the lead and you'd better step up to the plate with this one. And I think he does. I think it's a very strong performance. And I know that Crowe, he received thousands of audition tapes, and the reason he went for Fugit is he was awkward and funny in his words, and he wasn't jaded in the slightest. But also Fugit, he didn't have any idea about the music at the time. For a start, he thought Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin were solo artists. He didn't have it. Just really funny. And he owned one album. Do you know who that album was by?
I dread to think.
Chumbawamba.
I get no.
Wow.
Baffling.
Terrible choice.
Like one album, it's Chumbawamba. So Crowe had to give him a crash course in rock music, classic rock, gave him all the iconic albums of the time, just like William gets them in the film from his sister. And Crowe said to him, I want all of this stuff coming out of your paws. And the albums we've seen in the film, they actually Crowe's own albums.
Very nice.
Yeah, great. It is a great performance. He had this big crush on Hudson.
I'll see you around, man. Penny.
Hey,
Penny.
Be cool.
But she wasn't alone. He pretty much had a crush on every single one of the girls who played the Band-Aids.
Well, fair enough. He's only 15.
Yeah. Great. You know that scene where Penny asks him to go to Morocco and he says yes, but then he says, ask me again. That ask me again wasn't in the script. It was Fugit asking to take the line again.
Yeah.
But Crowe liked how it played in the scene.
You
can really see that when you know that and watch it back. You can really tell. Ask me again.
Ask me again.
Do you want to come?
Yes.
Westy, what about you? Who are you going for?
I'm going for Russell Hammond, played by Billy Crudup.
Yes.
Because he's just fantastic. He's just the embodiment of a rock star. He's just got that real persona. And when you see the band walk down past William and he just kind of looks at everybody and then he's fixated on Russell Hammond, and you know he stands out. You know he's the Jimmy Page. He's like, he's the focus of the band. Hair is incredible. He's Tash. It's fucking incredible. His costumes, just the way he wears the shirt. He's just got all the right answers. He's smooth. He's just, everyone likes him. He's a really likable character, even though his behavior is diabolical. And he has a real arc in the film. And I think he has a real emotion to the film. And he brings a reality, and he has this duality in his head. And he has this battle between, who am I really? Who are we? We're not who we think we are. The T-shirt comes out and he's like, can we just skip the vibe and just get a laughing about this? I love that line. It's like, I want to use that so many times. Yeah.
Can we just skip the vibe and go straight to us laughing about this?
Yeah, okay.
Because I can see by your face you want to get into it.
But even when he's walking on stage and all the lights are going off and, and he turns around and he just goes, stand over there. And he knows where everything is on the stage. And you're just like, yeah, this is just perfect. But then you get the bit where after the house party in Topeka, when he wants to just, experience what's real. And he's on the bus and he's got the towel wrapped around him and he's completely broken. And you get that from him as well. So you're seeing all the sides of this character. If you're going to have anyone as a 70s lead guitarist with persona, with sex appeal, with a real dynamic look, yeah, Billy Crudup, almost famous every time. But as much as I'm waxing lyrical about Crudup, originally it was Brad Pitt who was brought in cast as that role, which I can't imagine that. I can't even imagine Pitt with a tash. Never mind. I can't. Like with that hair and a tash, it's just laughable. Yeah. And he did the prep for about 4 months. But one day he just changed his mind and left the production without very much of an explanation at all. And Crowe said he wept when he found out. Crowe said he thinks he lost the love for the character and that there wasn't enough on the page for him really to kind of get into, which I don't know. I think that's Crowe kind of backpedaling. There's loads on the page to get into with this character.
Slightly more complicated than that.
I just think, honestly, he tried to grow a tash and tried to grow his hair and he looked shy.
Couldn't.
So
yeah, Pitt brings too much movie star, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think if all the actors just binned acting and just toured as Stillwater, they'd be fucking massive now.
We'd go and see them.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I mean, it's really interesting why you're saying there were seekers in terms of influences. Russell is based on Glenn Fry of the Eagles.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And that's where the line, just make us look cool, comes from, because that's what Fry said to Cameron Crowe in a Rolling Stone interview.
Yeah, he
just
did
make us look cool.
Tash. He had a great tash in back in the day, didn't he?
Very good. Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm going to pick out Kate Hudson here.
Lovely.
She was originally cast as Anita Williams' sister, and Sarah Pauli was on as Penny Lane, but she soon left after Pitt did, and Hudson begged to read for the part. With the character, you really start on the wrong foot with Penny, or I certainly do anyway, because she's an absolute nightmare. She's full of meaningless full philosophies, detached. Yeah. She's completely aloof. William's frustration at her is great. He has no idea where he stands with her, despite his, understandable infatuation.
I thought we were going to Morocco. There is no Morocco. There's never been a Morocco. There's not even a Penny Lane.
So because she treats him so badly, it's really difficult to find empathy with the character. So we've got all of that, certainly for me anyway. And then it all makes sense. She's in love with Russell, but knows that she can't have him. So she puts up these barriers to protect herself. There's a hint at a troubled home life, but we don't know anything about that. But we can assume that she's got this persona because of that.
Mm-hmm. Don't you have any regular friends?
Famous people are just more interesting.
And then she gets traded off to humble pie like cattle. Horrendous stuff.
Yeah, disgusting.
And then she has the freak out at the bar when Russell's wife or girlfriend is there. And all of this behavior, we really start to see the cracks appear. And all of this behavior, it's really relatable because, we've all seen somebody in a relationship or in a situation where they want to be with somebody and they can't be. Horrendous. Mm. And when she overdoses on the Quaaludes, that's really tough to see. The most hard-hitting scene in the film. Bit weird when William sneaks a kiss in there.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
Don't like it at all.
No.
I really don't. That's one of my real issues with the film, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And Penny even helps Russell become a better person. She forsakes her own happiness the first time that she's done that, and she realizes the meaning of true friendship with William over the meaninglessness of these shallow relationships that have no reality to them on the road. And I think to take audiences on this journey with Penny and to do a complete 180 with the character, like I did. I started rewatching it, revisiting it, coming around thinking, oh, God, Penny's horrible. But then you do turn around. It is a testament to Kate Hudson's performance. And she's got an innate charm and likability as an actress.
If you look at 3 key scenes from the film, you look at introduction, how, blasé she is, and just, this bit larger than life person. And then there's the breakdown when she, like you said, look, when she sees Russell and his relationship, that's a real heartbreaker.
It is.
And then when they're walking through Central Park and she's just holding on to William.
Beautiful.
Then if you put them 3 next to each other, you just think, Jesus Christ, is that the same film?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautifully done.
That's what I'm talking about. That 180.
It's beautiful.
And I'm with her on that ride.
Yeah.
Penny Lane is based on B.B. Buell, a well-known groupie who had affairs with Todd Rundgren, Steve Tyler from Aerosmith. She is Liv Tyler's mother.
Right.
She said that it was her who twirled around in an empty Madison Square Garden among the discarded debris after a gig.
It's beautiful, that scene, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, that the wind, and then it goes into Voodoo Child.
Yeah.
When they're walking to the plane. It's unbelievable.
Amazing. Yeah. So 3 great choices there. We've missed out on McDormand, the great Hoffman, Zoe Deschanel, amazing, and of course Jason Lee is Jeff Beebe. It's understandable that we left him out because he's only the fucking lead singer.
He's one of the out of focus guys.
Fantastic. Overall, a great cast.
It's an amazing cast. Yeah.
Now it's time to break down our almost famous highlights, our favourite scenes from the film. Matt, you're going to take her away first.
I am. And I'm going for saying that it seems quite small in the context of the rest of the film, but I think it just says so much, and it has such a great payoff at the end. You can't ignore it. And it's William's first meeting with Lester, where they get to know each other, and then Lester gives William his first assignment on Sabbath, which is really funny. I mean,
I'm taking the bus. Really cool, that, Lester.
You need a ride?
No, man, I took the bus.
I mean, this performance from Hoffman, it's just out of this world. I mean, I think he has about 8 minutes of screen time in the film, but he gives the film such heart because he is just the best mentor you could ever hope to have, just giving William exactly what he needs to hear, even if William doesn't know it. I mean, the line when they're walking together and William says everyone at his school hates him, and Lester just goes,
Well, you'll meet them all again on their long journey to the middle.
Jesus Christ. What a line of dialogue that is. Like, what it must mean to hear that from someone you really respect when you're low step. And, that line has been stuck in my head ever since. Like, the fact that it's a long journey, they don't even get a mediocrity quickly. It takes them ages to get there. It's brilliant. And then also, just got to mention that bit when retrospect, it's just devastating when Lester says to William,
Take drugs?
No.
Smart kid.
knowing what would happen to Hoffman a few years later, I mean, fucking hell,
I know.
It's hard to watch that line.
Yeah, it really is tough.
But then it just sets William up for the rest of the film, because if Lester believes in him and listens to him, then why wouldn't anyone else? And it gives him the confidence to do this thing. But it pays off beautifully at the end when it started to fall apart for William a bit. Like, he didn't get the girl. The band didn't denying his story. Ben's chucked him out of Rolling Stone. He's still a kid in Elaine's eyes. And who's the only person who's still there for him? It's Lester. And that late night phone call, it's just beautifully written.
I'm glad you were home.
I'm always home. I'm uncool.
Me too.
Crowe knows exactly who this line is aimed at. Good-looking people don't have any spine. Their art never lasts. I mean, let's be honest, it's aimed at every single geek and nerd, just like us, whether it's about film, whether it's about music, who's just had those moments of just being sat on the outside, just feeling uncool. That's who it's aimed at, and it just couldn't sound better than the way it's delivered by Hoffman. So, scene in the cafe is wonderful. This is a wonderful payoff. But the thing about Hoffman, though, as well, he had flu. He had 4 days on set, and he had flu for every day. And in Fugit's words, he was totally fucking exhausted, dehydrated, obviously very nauseous, and had a step way to vomit during takes. That's how ill he was.
Jesus.
Yeah. Which is amazing when you think about him in the radio station. Iggy Pop! Amen!
Iggy Pop! Amen!
He's just so watchable. That bit when he gives him the advice as well, he tells him what he needs to say. But the way that scene's shot, that light through the window is beautifully shot.
Yeah, well, that light through the window moment as well, Westy, mirroring Bangs and Williams' relationship. Hoffman kind of took Fugit under his wing. Yeah. That scene, they had huge lights outside which were blinding Fugit, and he couldn't look up, so he was just looking down at his notepad.
Right.
And Seymour Hoffman was like, "What are you doing? You've got to look at this for the scene." And it didn't occur to him that he could ask them to be repositioned. He's wet behind the ears. It's his first gig. And Hoffman had a word with the DP and explained to Fugit that if something's not right, you have to say something. And he said he was just eternally grateful for that.
Yeah, amazing.
But I mean, Hoffman, you cannot beat that intro when he's going wild at Search and Destroy by the Stooges. He's doing all that shit.
That dance is amazing. Over the head.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a bit early for me, not for me.
That scene, he's responsible for probably the best joke in the film. He picks out an album. Yes. No.
Yes. And editor of Cream magazine back home.
Brilliant. 2 words. Hilarious.
Drunken buffoons give me the Guess Who. I love
Brilliant.
that. Yeah. And his t-shirts are amazing. I want every single one of them. Detroit sucks. I need that.
Yeah. That Guess Who one is Cameron Crowe's Guess Who t-shirt from the period as well.
Right. Amazing.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to talk about the I Am a Golden God sequence in the film.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Russell goes on a quest for something real after the fallout of the band over the T-shirts. Jeff's pissed off because he's one of the out-of-focus guys, and Russell's looks have become a problem. Brilliant.
It's just silence afterwards.
Yeah, like, what?
What the fuck?
And let me just say what nobody else wants to say to you. Your looks have become a problem.
All right, okay, enough.
And then when we're at the party, the acid trip strips away Russell's rock star enigmatic persona. Here we see him as he would have been if he wasn't in a band, just a music geek who just wants to party with his friends. And I think that comes across in the dialogue when he says he's looking for something real.
Yeah. Just flicking the light switch. Real, man. Yeah. And when he picks up that toy and then just puts it back down and he's looking for something else. Real.
Strip away the act that he has to put on as band leader and get back to his essence. Really, he's just an excited kid about music. Crudup said that the Golden God quote is like him having a childlike experience of being a rock god, something that is beyond his wildest dreams.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most iconic moment in the film, the I Am a Golden God. You can tell Rolling Stone magazine that my last words were, I'm on drugs, and everybody, come on! And then trying to think of something profound. No, wait. I dig music. Getting like hilariously muted, but respectful reception. Okay. Brilliant.
And then I'm on drugs! That's when he does that with his hands, when he's like that.
Yeah.
He's just like over them.
Dwayne Allman of the Allman Brothers Band claims that he was the inspiration for the pool jump scene, but the words I Am a Golden God were uttered by Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant on the balcony of a Sunset Strip hotel in LA. He's doing that.
Wow.
Great.
That makes sense.
Yeah. In reality, that isn't Crudup diving into the pool. The shot of him jumping off cuts to another angle as his stunt double jumps into the pool behind.
Mm-hmm.
Crudup jumped onto an inflatable like the one on Lethal Weapon, but he was so amped up on adrenaline that he nearly missed the inflatable altogether and went over the edge.
He goes for it, like from
really
his shot.
Does.
He really goes for it, yeah.
Great. And finally, the Tiny Dancer moment is spine-tingling.
Yeah.
Really stirs up emotions because we've been on the road with the band and we can feel that rift. And this is, I guess, the message of the film. Music heals all. Tiny Dancer brings the band back together. It shows the unity between the whole group. They're all on the same wavelength. It's just, it's a perfect moment, an iconic moment.
Oh, absolutely. It's a punch the air moment, isn't it? It's just
it
absolutely
really
fantastic.
Beautiful.
And you look forward to that scene and every rewatch.
Yeah.
You just think, here it comes.
I mean, I'll stick by it as well. I've always thought that this moment, Tiny Dancer in this film, made the song itself one of Elton John's signature tunes. Before that, nobody knew anything about it.
Nah, absolutely.
The only voice that isn't in the mix with the cast singing Tiny Dancer is Fugit. His voice was apparently god-awful according to Crowe, so he dropped it in post-production.
That was bad as Crudup's drumming in the garage. Fucking shit. But he's loving it.
He is. He's having a great time. Don't give him any more acid. Hard cut.
Please, don't give him any more acid.
Westy, what about you? Favourite scene?
My favourite scene is when, I mean, I love all of it, but it's when it finally comes together and you realise when Russell rings Penny Lane, he says, I'm coming to you this time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is such a beautiful line. And it gets me every time because I just think, have you got a pen? You know, and she's back home now. It seems like a really desolate place where she is, really quiet, but she's now doing the right thing. And when she just opens the door and he's there and he's just got that expression on his face where he's just kind of looking around.
Yeah.
And he finally gets in the house and he goes, is she here? And Anita? And then the camera cuts to Anita and she just does that little... That little stance, it's just fucking
really confused.
So adorable.
Yeah, she's
like
excited as well because it's the lead guitarist of Stillwater and our house.
Amazing. And then you just see the pictures and it sinks in and he's walking through the corridor. He just kind of has that look where he's just, you know, and they've called him the enemy all the way through and he just goes in, this is where the enemy sleeps. And he finally sees William's life. He sees all the posters on the wall. He sees it's heart and soul is in this. And the way he sits down and it finally breaks down and he admits his love for Penny, which breaks down his coolness. He's in the real now. He's in the real world. This is what he's been looking for. There's nothing about this that's fake, that's false. It's just a house of heart. And he walks into it and just the way he turns that chair around and he's just leans forward. You know, what do you love about music? You know, to begin with, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just beautiful.
To begin with, everything.
And you're just left feeling like, I'm even talking about it now, I just feel like just really warm and just like, not in a cheesy way, but in just like a lovely way where you just go, you know what, that was a fucking journey and I really enjoyed that and it was really, really lovely and everyone got what they needed to get and I've learned something from it. And I think that final sequence where everybody comes together and there's that little payoff, you know, it's like Silence of the Lambs, but not quite the same.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It is. But without that payoff.
But without the payoff, you know, without the night vision.
Yeah.
What do you love about skin and women? To begin with.
Everything.
Everything. Put the fucking guitar in the fucking basket.
He's looking at his son. Maybe he could help you. I got his card in here someplace.
And also, as well, what makes this even more of a joy is that Crowe's mother and sister were estranged, as they very much are in the film, and they only communicated through him, as they do in the film.
Yeah.
But they did come together after the film came out, because they said they'd seen it, and the end scene was like the biggest work of fiction in the film for Crowe. It's like almost a wish for him that this was going to happen. And he said it was the biggest work of fiction, but after they saw the film, it actually came true, and they came together, which makes it even better.
Beautiful, that, isn't it? Okay, so 3 great highlights. And I think they really perfectly captured William Miller's rite of passage through Almost Famous as well, those 3 scenes.
Yeah, definitely.
The encore of the cutting room is to summarise and score Almost Famous out of 10. Westy, would you like to go first?
No.
All right. Matt?
No, I will do. I think for me, it's one of them films that I'll come back to when I don't really get sick of. I will watch it, every couple of months, really. If just there's nothing else, I had to put that on if I want to, feel a little bit better.
One of your go-tos.
Yeah, like a bit of a poorly weekend or something. You feel a bit, drab or whatever. It's one of them films where I just kind of miss it if I haven't seen it. So I want to revisit it. I really do love it. But there is one point that we haven't mentioned that really does stick with me, and that's when Penny overdoses on the Quaaludes, and then William takes that opportunity to basically just abuse her. And it's not done in a sexual way that it could have been done. I know it's just a kiss and that whatever else. I don't think that should be in there. No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for the line of dialogue that goes with it. I'm going where many men have gone before, whatever else. Yeah. It's just morally wrong for me. That's the only bit. If that bit wasn't in and they just got help for it and he'd done the right thing, it would be a perfect 10 for me. But I can't allow that to happen, and it really brings me down every time I watch it and just makes us feel a little bit sad all day. So it's going to be a 9 for me. 9.
Yeah. Understandable. Still a good score.
Yeah.
Well, I've loved the film since it came out, and I've always had a huge affection for it and I've only just realised without watching it too much in the last 10 years. It's always held a strong place for me because of the era and because of the music that it depicts. A great cast as well, one of the very best, and a really personal story from Cameron Crowe, straight from the heart. So it is wonderful, and it is a go-to. It makes you feel better. But I think the issues that I have with it sounds as though you two fellas do as well. The only thing that pulls it down for me, and I think it's come with time, I feel like I'm slightly too old to be enjoying this like I did when I was 20. Like I said, I've got a different perspective.
Yeah.
The Band-Aid stuff does leave a slight bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that moment that you've just mentioned there, Westy, and the deflowering scene.
Yeah.
No good for me. No good for me. Don't like
Same,
them.
Yeah.
So it brings it down. Like Westy, it's a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah. And what about you, Matt?
Yeah. I think it's impossible to not be charmed by this film.
I don't know when.
You've charmed me. Yeah?
And like I say, I think it's the most complete and personal thing Cameron Crowe's ever done. Easily his best film. And I do think that's why everything after it has just been damp squib after damp squib, basically. An amazing cast. And even for those like McDormand and Hoffman, where this isn't necessarily their best work, it's still up there with it, I would say. But I'm very, very much in agreement with you two fellas that there are just individual moments that do drag it down, unfortunately. And it is just those two you have mentioned, the kiss and the deflowering scene, that both really stand out. It's just being ripe for being snipped out of the film. So it is a great film. It's a really good time. It does make me happy overall, but it isn't perfect. So therefore, I'm also giving it a 9.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, consistent. So that means, with our scores combined, Almost Famous ends up with a big 27 out of 30.
Yeah.
A big score, a wonderful paean to the glory days of rock, handled beautifully by All the Right Movies as well.
Even if we do say so ourselves.
If you
like, I really thought you wanted to say Cameron Crowe there. Oh, no, us.
Us. No, us.
No.
I mean, Crowe give us the material, but, we've elevated it, I think. 10 out of 10 now. If you like our style, please also like the video, subscribe to our YouTube account, and share with anybody who is crazy about movies.
Yes.
And to our viewers who have come to this 12 months' time, you can become an All the Right Movies Patreon supporter and gain access to brand new bonus video every month and over 120 exclusive podcasts. Podcast archive is available to our patrons, but you can buy them individually at a very reasonable price on our website, alltherightmovies.com. Over 200 hours of laughs, behind-the-scenes anecdotes, and big ATRM opinions on some of the best.
That'll make sense if you do sign up.
To offer.
Yes, it will. That'll make perfect sense.
Do you want to give us another go, Westy? Just
I can. I mean, there's so many. There's over 200 hours podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. The evening is over. We hope you all enjoyed yourself, and we'll see you again in 1974.
Yes, we will.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone, especially our Patreon supporters. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing it. So, big up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Very, very good, fellas.
Oh. What's happened there?
So can we do Zodiac now? The next one?
Yeah. As well.
So Sans the Lambs, maybe? Whatever. Aloha.
Why are you asking us? We're just the out of focus guys.
That's fair enough, actually.